Well, imagine not knowing for almost 10 years what happened to someone you loved. They disappear, and then all you know is that whatever did happen to them wasn't good. Since 2015, the Crystal Rogers case has weighed heavy on the Nelson County community. Questions remain about what exactly happened to her. To this day, her body has not been found.
In the small town of Bardstown, Kentucky, the peace and quiet of rural life was shattered by a series of unsolved murders that have haunted the community for over a decade. What makes the Bardstown murders particularly chilling isn't just the brutality of the killings, but the fact that multiple murders in one town remain unresolved. From the murder of a local police officer to the killing of innocent civilians, the crimes seem interconnected yet remain unsolved, despite extensive investigations and widespread media attention. Bardstown, known as the most beautiful small town in America, became the setting for a crime saga that gripped not only the local community, but the entire country. Over the course of several years, 4 people were murdered with no arrests, no convictions, and little progress in bringing those responsible to justice. The first murder, the mysterious death of Crystal Rogers. It all began in July 2015 when Crystal Rogers, a 35-year-old mother of 5, disappeared without a trace. Crystal had been last seen visiting her boyfriend, Brooks Houck, in Bardstown. A few days later, her car was found abandoned on the side of the road, with a flat tire and her purse still inside. But Crystal was nowhere to be found. Authorities immediately launched a search effort, combing through the town and surrounding areas for any sign of Crystal. Weeks went by and no leads emerged. Then, in October 2015, Crystal's body was discovered in a field near the town. But it wasn't the discovery of Crystal that made the case so baffling. It was the fact that no one could explain how she had ended up there. Despite the discovery of her body, the case went cold quickly. Crystal Rogers' family and the community were left searching for answers. Investigators were unable to determine whether Crystal had been murdered or if her death was the result of an accidental death or foul play. Despite extensive searching and several suspects, the case remained open but unsolved.
Well, today marks 9 years since Bardstown police officer Jason Ellis was ambushed on his way home from work. Investigators say purposefully placed tree limbs in the middle of the exit off the Bluegrass Parkway were all part of the plan.
The second murder, the killing of Officer Jason Ellis. Just a year before Crystal's death, another tragedy struck the Bardstown community. On May 25, 2013, Officer Jason Ellis, a well-liked Bardstown police officer, was ambushed and shot execution style while driving home from his night shift. He was found in his police car, which had been parked on the side of the highway. The execution-style killing of an officer was shocking to everyone. The town of Bardstown, which had a reputation for being a safe and peaceful place, was now rocked by the news of such a brutal act. The killing seemed random, and there was no immediate motive or suspect in sight. The case was investigated by local police, the FBI, and other law enforcement agencies. But despite numerous leads, the murder of Officer Ellis remains unsolved to this day. Over the years, several theories have emerged. Some believe that the murder was targeted, while others think it was part of a larger pattern of violence. Regardless of the theories, one fact remains. No one was ever arrested for the killing of Officer Ellis, and his murder remains one of the most puzzling in Kentucky's history. The third and fourth murders. The tragic death of the Houck family. After the murder of Officer Ellis, tensions in Bardstown only grew. But then just a few years later, another murder shook the community. In 2016, 2 members of the Houck family connected to Brooks Houck, Crystal Rogers' boyfriend, were found dead under mysterious circumstances. In 2016, Tommy Houck, the father of Brooks Houck, was found shot and killed in his own home. The police believed Tommy had been targeted, but the lack of evidence left the case open. Shortly after Tommy's death, his son Brooks Houck, who was also connected to the death of Crystal Rogers, became a suspect in the murder. Though he was never officially charged, the local law enforcement failed to connect the deaths of these individuals to the wider investigation. As the investigation continued, the entire Houck family was caught in the crosshairs of speculation and theories. Could there have been a connection between Tommy Houck's death and Crystal Rogers' disappearance? Were these murders the result of family conflict, or was there a larger conspiracy at play? Like the case with Officer Ellis and Crystal Rogers, there were no definitive answers. Theories and speculation. What is the connection between the murders? As the Bardstown murders piled up, so did the speculation. Was there a serial killer on the loose in Bardstown? Were these murders all connected? Or were they simply a series of unfortunate and unrelated crimes? A common theory was that Brooks Houck was involved in some way, but the evidence against him was always circumstantial. Others believed that Crystal Rogers' death was somehow tied to drug activity, though no clear connections were ever made. Still, local law enforcement refused to rule out the possibility of a serial killer targeting the town's residents. The investigation, a case full of dead ends, with each new murder, the investigation into the Bardstown murders grew more complicated. Over the years, law enforcement agencies at the local, state, and federal levels have worked tirelessly to track down leads, gather new evidence, and interrogate potential suspects. However, despite these efforts, the case continues to elude resolution. Despite public interest, high-profile investigations, and countless tips, the truth about what happened to Officer Jason Ellis, Crystal Rogers, and Tommy Houck remains as elusive as ever. The murders of Officer Jason Ellis, Crystal Rogers, and Tommy Houck continue to leave the town of Bardstown in turmoil, and the lingering effects are felt not only by their families, but also by the community that witnessed these tragic events unfold. The victims' families have lived with the pain of grief and confusion, and the town is still haunted by the unanswered questions. These deaths, compounded by the slow-moving investigation, have left the town grieving, fearful, and unable to fully move forward. Even as new evidence emerges and advanced forensic techniques are employed, the case continues to go unsolved. In a town where justice is expected to prevail, the Bardstown murders remain a disturbing reminder of the mysteries that still exist in the world of true crime. The fact that multiple suspects were never formally charged and the case remains open despite years of investigation speaks volumes about the difficulty in solving such a complex and emotionally charged case. The murders. Tragedy strikes Bardstown. The first of these tragic deaths occurred in 2013 with the killing of Officer Jason Ellis. On the night of May 25, 2013, Ellis was working his routine shift with the Bardstown Police Department when he was found shot and killed while sitting in his car. His murder seemed like an ambush, and many initially thought it was an isolated incident. But this was just the beginning of a series of tragedies that would plague Bardstown. Ellis, a beloved officer in the community, was shot execution style while parked on a local road after finishing his shift. The killer or killers approached his vehicle and shot him at close range. Authorities initially believed this to be a random act of violence, but as the investigation continued, they began to suspect something more deliberate. The evidence pointed to a personal vendetta, and many wondered if there was a connection between Ellis's murder and the larger issues within the town. The investigation, despite massive resources being dedicated to it, was a dead end. The killer was never caught, and for many months the case was left unsolved. As authorities began to piece together the case, their focus shifted, and other murders emerged that appeared linked. The second murder, which also rocked the town, was the disappearance of Crystal Rogers, a 35-year-old mother of 5. Crystal went missing on July 5, 2015, with her car found abandoned on the side of the road near a local highway. There was no sign of a struggle, and no one knew where she had gone. What was even more unsettling was that Crystal Rogers' father, Bobby Joe Rogers, was later found dead under mysterious circumstances in 2016, raising even more suspicion. At first, his death was ruled an accident, but many within the community believed it was connected to the other murders. For the families, the frustration grew, and the search for Crystal became a search for justice. The town's fear escalated when Tommy Houck, a local businessman who was known to have ties to Crystal's family, was found dead in 2016. Tommy's death was initially treated as an accident, but suspicions quickly grew that it was linked to the murders of Crystal Rogers and Jason Ellis. Despite the multiple deaths, no one has been formally charged and no arrests have been made. The town of Bardstown had now been rocked by 3 separate, yet seemingly connected murders, each one building on the last, but none of them leading to an answer. The investigation, the slow unraveling of evidence. The investigation into the Bardstown murders has involved a long and painful process. With each passing year, the evidence began to mount, but with little resolution. Law enforcement officials have sifted through mountains of evidence, spoken to dozens of witnesses, and interrogated several potential suspects. However, despite their best efforts, the truth remains elusive. In the case of Crystal Rogers, Brooks Houck, her ex-boyfriend, was the most prominent suspect. Authorities focused heavily on Brooks Houck, despite the lack of direct evidence. Despite significant suspicion and DNA testing, Brooks Houck was never formally charged in connection with Crystal's disappearance. His continued denial of any involvement, despite mounting evidence against him, frustrated law enforcement and the public alike. Despite the relentless efforts by the FBI, local police, and private investigators, no new evidence came to light to connect Houck definitively to Crystal's disappearance or the other deaths. As time went on, many in the town began to suspect that the killings were connected. However, all of these theories were based on speculation, and as the investigation stalled, the evidence failed to corroborate any one theory. Theories and suspects, the growing web of connections. The theories surrounding the Bardstown murders have continued to grow over the years, but none of them have been fully substantiated. One of the most persistent theories suggests that the murders were connected to a larger criminal syndicate operating in the area. Some believe that local drug activity or business rivalries may have been behind the killings. Crystal Rogers' involvement with Tommy Houck's family and their ties to the local community may have made them targets. But despite local speculation, no definitive evidence has connected them to any organized crime. An open wound for Bardstown. The Bardstown murders remain a haunting part of the town's history. These 4 unsolved murders have left families grieving, friends in shock, and a community in mourning. From the execution-style killing of Officer Jason Ellis to the disappearance and death of Crystal Rogers and the tragic events surrounding Tommy Houck, this series of murders has left a lasting scar on Bardstown. Until then, the search for justice continues, and the residents of Bardstown hold on to the hope that the truth will eventually come to light. For more true crime stories, unsolved mysteries, and deep dives into chilling cases like the Bardstown murders, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Leave your thoughts and theories about this case in the comments below. Let's continue the conversation and keep the search for justice alive.